Of the week. So if it's your Friday, then welcome. But it is Thursday officially. And the conversation tonight, we're going to go into the Adam and Eve a little bit, but with Jordan Maxwell's help and a lot of other things that he's going to say. And yesterday we had a good podcast showing some of his clips. I even got more clips, some other different things that he was talking about that we're going to talk about tonight in the show. But one in particular is Adam and Eve. You know, we know the story that all of us came from Adam and Eve, but Jordan Maxwell says that's not the truth. And he's going to give you some reasons tonight and the story, in which I've always said it too. It's very difficult that all of us came from two people, but then that is the religious story that we've been taught, or I have been taught since I've grown up, okay, Adam and Eve. However, we've had plenty stories about that. And if you think of genetically, there's no way 5 billion people came from two and we still got the same 5 fingers and everything else. It'll be all over the place, right? However, there are some of the stories that's been told. We're going to get into those tonight and continue his legacy of information on into next week, because there's a lot of stuff that's going to set the foundation for the direction that we're going to be heading. So I thought it'd be right up the alley for us to do that. And pretty much one in particular is where we are today. And we want to talk about the New World Order. And he's going to explain the real definition of that in a couple of clips. And I got about 10, 11 tonight, and it's going to be great. You do not want to miss all of the different clips that we have that we're going to be showing. And in fact, you're going to get a lot of knowledge from this. Now, for you all in the Patreon, next week, I'll be loading the whole full 2-hour video from last night of his clips, which we only played a few clips, and the 1.5-hour video of his whole interview that he was doing tonight. But I'm just showing clips and we're going to discuss it. So anyway, membership has its privileges, and I want to thank you. All right, shout out to everybody who's in the chat already. And if you believe that Adam and Eve is the person who created all of us or made all of us from God, right? Put it in the chat. I want to know your disposition about your thoughts of Adam and Eve. And please go ahead and participate. I can put it on the screen and we can get your thoughts about it and be detailed as possible or whatever. And we want to do that. This is a community conversation, and therefore your interaction helps me evolve the conversation and also get really detailed. But before you get to that, or before I get to that, I'm going to also play a little video clip for you a little later about some things that's up and coming. And so I'm definitely can't wait to show you the video midway through the live stream tonight. So please stick around for that as well. So if you are ready and you're ready for a conversation, then brace yourself, because some of the things you're about to hear, you may not believe it. All right, so we start out with the story of Adam and Eve. And again, I was raised to a point that is the foundation. God, took Eve out of one of Adam's ribs and created the perfect partner for him. Now, ever since then, we've all probably been looking for that Eve-like partner, but some of you have found it, and some of us, unfortunately, has not, and we're still not giving up. However, to understand the story of genetics, you can vision yourself on an island with your partner, just you two, and you decide to reproduce and replenish the planet or that island, and just the two of you. And then all of a sudden you have a couple of babies, and hopefully you have a male and female, right? Because if not, you have 2 sons, then generation is over with. Or 2 daughters, it's over with. And I think that's the foundation for people to understand how this really works, right? And so the 2 of them then, or whatever, begin to make babies, and then all of a sudden they're, of course, related, right? And then all of a sudden there's more babies, and maybe they have 2 or maybe 3, or maybe one of you decide that you want to make another baby with the kid. I don't know, right? But just think about that insidious part of first 2 or 3 generations, and imagine what the children is going to come out. And then if you start thinking about it, imagine now 5 billion people came from that story that we've all told and grew up with. And where are you with the story? So let me look here. Someone says no BS narrative. Who did Cain meet outside of this family? Yeah, there you go. Ryan says, if Adam and Eve, let me put it on the screen. If Adam and Eve is a mystical fable that shows the conception and gestation process, all right. He said, Inky modified us. She's saying that no way, they were created No, they were created by the Anunnaki to worship. All right. And here says their son went out and found a wife according to Genesis. All right. And I have drifted toward the Adam evolution. And impossible. We came from Adam and Eve. Okay, Kara. All right. Here, Cain was afraid, and would kill him after murder. There was more people around. And that's, yeah, okay, Dr. Yak. All right, I'm with you on that one. This one says the part of the story doesn't make sense unless incest is involved. There you go. I believe Adam and Eve were genetically made in the lab and to show us to survive on this planet. All right, so there you go. You have a lot of different people that are looking at this a little different. But it appears that most of you have not bought the hook, line, and sinker that you, me, and all of us, and that will mean that we're probably all relatives, right? And all of a sudden, then the color shift changed. Then we have different races and all extended from Adam and Eve. All right, and then that goes to the Noah story. We're not talking about that tonight, but all right, you can believe. So why is it those things stand out there? Why is it that these things sitting out there for us to believe, to consume, teach it to our children, teach it to the next generation? Tonight, we're going to get some of those answers and what's really up through the mind of Jordan Maxwell. And so let me get started with how it all begins. And it starts with the process that he talks about, which is possibly the New World Order. So let's go into one of his clips.
If we go back into ancient history and follow the march of world history from even prior to the Sumerians, but especially from Samaria, then Egypt and Phoenicia and all of the ancient cultures coming down to our modern day, there has never existed one culture on the earth that did not recognize the gods, and the gods who were behind the kings, and the great gods who were behind all things. Not one culture has ever existed that did not recognize that there were higher forces at work on the earth. Occult or hidden wisdom behind the world scene, and the hidden implications of the symbols and emblems and the religious philosophies, and how these things are all enmeshed in politics.
All right, so right there, he sets the foundation in our conversation tonight that there may be a different story of what we've been here today versus our ancestors and cultural stories that were left for us to know. And one in particular is all of them worship gods with an S, not a monotheistic way, you know, that we're trying to move to today. However, he's saying that that was a different story. Why was that? Now, I've said it in other shows that we look at as humans, anything that came from the sky that bared fire and made noises and shining, and we didn't know what it was. And if it came from another planet or dimension, we automatically depicted it as a god and then began to worship them as that. And then all of the aliens, because there's not been one alien story that we have talked about and even revealed that some point one of the aliens didn't say, we created you. I am this, this, and that. So therefore, this story that you can go to planet Earth and these humans are going to worship you like gods began to be a story, you know, something that I think went out there. I mean, for example, if you were in the real life as men, and we find out that in this particular town, like they say Atlanta, the rumor, that a man can go and get worshiped like a king because there's a man shortage. So what happens? The rumor says, oh, let's go there. Even the ones who are bad is going to go there to be treated like a king. So I just use that. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but the whole point I'm saying is imagine that getting out, that on Earth, there is a place that you're going to be treated if you show up because they have no knowledge of or know any better. So when he said that and he talked about the ancient civilizations, one of the things I gathered from it was that the fact that what he was saying was that there's storylines that we or have been covered up. And as we continue into the show tonight, it's going to layer out to you that there possibly is. And there's going to be some things that really you will question everything. Because you got to remember, I tell you, don't focus on how things are happening in this world, but then kind of move your mindset to the why. And if you move from how to why, then the why is going to send you down the rabbit hole. It's going to ask questions. You're going to question everything. And then you will realize that your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. And therefore, now we are on a journey together, and that is exactly where we need to be. However, if you continue to follow down this path tonight, it's going to rattle a few things, because we're going to get into, all right, what age, Aquarius age or Piscean age? We're going to talk about who made us, and he's going to explain that to you as well. We're going to talk about the zodiac and the meaning of that. So that we're going to go into some details. But before that, we then will discuss something he talks about, is the proof of angels, I should say. That's kind of how I made the note in my mind, the proof of angels, or whoever they are. And he has a real good intuitive thing about this when he says that. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about Jordan Maxwell, you Google him and you understand that he's the truth. He's the real deal. And so therefore, you don't, if you get to a point you're like, who is this guy? Go look it up before you will make a comment or whatever, because he is proven, and his research is absolute when it comes down to this thing. Now, I'm not saying he knows everything, but he knows more than what I did and most people and everything else. So therefore, let's move us into another part of the conversation that he says, and then I'll go back and check out some of your comments in the chat as well. So let's go into the proof of what he says.
And there, even within the Christian and Jewish religion, there is much proof in the Bible of the existence of angels or spirit creatures who are influencing man's destiny. So I have no problem with believing that there is some sort of a extraterrestrial, if you will, intelligence, because just even the knowledge that the ancient Sumerians, for instance, and the Egyptians had about our universe, about the whole concept of the precession of the equinox, how the sun moves backwards in the signs, and the different astrological symbols and the astrological terms, and there's just too much occult or hidden knowledge that was known by the ancients that could not have been just intuitive. It had to have been from someone out there who brought the knowledge to us. And there's a lot of very good scholarship that's proving that there has been some sort of a connection between us and other life forms from out there. So I think it can be proven.
Yep.
So right there. So when we talk about us in the UFO community or ufology, or people says, oh, all right, scientific, that we evolved from apes, and yet the apes are still here, right? Or the other part of, again, the Stark brought us down a chimney, right? We've heard that story. But when he says what he says, you know what? There's a lot of proof that we have some extraterrestrial intervention. So if you go all the way back to the Dogon tribe, they knew where Sirius B and all these star constellation was before the Western world and technology even knew. And they were an indigenous tribe. So how did they find out? Because something told them, something that didn't belong here or was here long before gave them that wisdom, and therefore they knew exactly where it was. And make no mistake about it, there's a lot of people from the Vatican and all these people, they know the truth. They know how some of these things, and they have had the information. But it's us as humans, and we have been taught through trauma, through the media, through bills, through life, focusing on this particular stuff, that most people don't even question that we got pyramids that have been here millions of years, that we have signs and things that have been here, civilizations that's up and gone. Where did they go? How did they get here? They was here before us, and don't mean that if something was here before us, how long we're going to be here, right? And so all of these things get us to not question. And once again, they've done a great job. I will say the outside world have done a great job shaping our realities to what we see and what we're going through. And I think it's something that truth is what he says. Truth is need to be truth. And then, of course, the authorities need to be rebelled. So when you hear him say, or what are your ideas of the concepts of what he just said, I think it's pretty interesting, especially when he talks about, ancient civilization. All of them have proved to some point that there has been someone here before us, and someone has been altering or at some point guiding our information, guiding our way of life. And there could be still here, right? We're not saying they're gone. They just evolved, or maybe they figured out a way to hide themselves in everything else. But once again, we start with the Bible. He said it, the Bible. Now, most people figure that the word is the word and the Bible is absolute. But yet, my personal thoughts is this is one of the books that have more revisions than any other book in the world. It has been revised a lot of times. It has been reproduced in other versions a lot of times. How could absolute truth be revised? But it has, and yet it's one of the most number one sold book in the world. And who's making money from it? Who's got a patent on it? That'd be something worth to know. I don't know, but somebody may have a patent on the Bible itself, and pretty much. So anyway, Deanna says, I believe the Bible has been touched by man, and I think it's been changed. I don't think it's the original form. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go that we can go down that road. We can go with that assumption, right? And I think it's probably been proven, but yet, like he says, he already know the proof is in the pudding that there's been some changes and things made. And so Jordan talks about that from there. It's worth noting that it's something that we will look into, like unearthing the Pasamix head statue is huge. Yeah. So in that statue, people should be marching. Who built this? Who built this? Who built this? But nobody does. It's like, all right, it shows up in books. Yeah, the truth shows up in documentaries, but it ain't showing up in schools. It's not showing up in the church. It's not showing up in the banking systems. It's not showing up in business. It's not showing up in the everyday things that are controlling or what I should say, projecting the realities that they want us to have on a daily basis. It's not showing up there. And whatever reason, I believe it's control. And we can use that as a word, but at the end of the day, that's what it appears to be. And the reasons for that is whoever's on the top of this thing is living the good life or getting what they want, and unbeknownst to the victims of all of this, which would be our consciousness and our daily path. However, we're going to explore all of that, though. We're going to begin to break down little pieces of those things, just little fragments, and we're going to be putting those pieces back together. So not only that we have to then start accepting the world and where it is, no, we're going to begin to understand that's what they're playing, but we don't have to play by that game or those rules that they have, and we'll begin to play our own game, because obviously the world is designed to give everybody everything they want. Think about it. 5 billion people don't want the exact same thing. It's not cookie cutter. However, millions of people are getting what they want. So obviously this magic thing that we're in is capable of giving us everything that we want. We just got to figure out how to tap into it. And saying that is what he talks about, us going into the new world order, or the golden age. And you hearing it over media. A new elected president said this is the golden age. This is which will be tied to sun worshiping. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. He's going to say something, but think about it. It's in our faces, and it just goes unnoticed because certain things goes unnoticed that we're not paying attention to, because it just blows over your head, right? Or our heads, right? We in this together, by the way, but let's shake it down.
I believe the Bible is telling us an encoded story. I think there's more to the story than has met the eye. But one point I wanted to bring out is that in both the Old and New Testament of the Bible, in all of the Bible, Old and New Testament, there are only 2 scriptures in the entire Bible where the word God is used, and of course it's used all the way through. There are only 2 scriptures where that word God, it means a nebulous, all-encompassing, divine, spiritual force in the universe. Only 2 scriptures mean that. All of the scriptures in the Bible that talk about God means actual entities, more than one.
That's right, more than one.
More than one, and that's why very even, excuse me, more than one, because in Genesis 1:1, it is a mistranslation.
Now, what do you think about that, though? And it's true. You've seen it. You've seen the signs. You've gone to church, and, I'm a jealous God. You heard that scripture or whatever. Now, why would God say he's jealous of anything, and if he's only one? Obviously, there are other gods, and there's other things in the Bible that dictate that, but yet we still read it. And it really gets me to a point to why and what really happens on a Sunday morning. Because if you really think about it in your mind, you go to church, at least when I was going to the Potter's house, I would go to the church and Bishop Jakes will come out and everybody's happy and clapping. And he comes out and he tell you to take your seat. And then he goes through the book and he'll open a book and then he'll get to the thing. And he will say, hey, turn to page such and such, such and such. We all stand up, we turn to the page, and he begins to read go to whatever scripture, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, let's make man in our image and the likeness of ourselves. And we're reading that with him. We're reading that with him with the interpretation that we don't really understand it because he's getting ready to give us a deeper meaning in something that we have the interpretation ability, right? That we can read it. In fact, we can have our own church if we wanted to. And if 2 or more people are in your house, I think that's a congregation. If there's 2 or more people in the house, that's a congregation if you really want to qualify it, and you could pay tithes to your house, 10%, if you want. I'm just saying, I'm just letting you know that 2 or more people makes a congregation. You know that. So you can have a small church and you be the minister of your church at your house, right? In your mind and interpret this thing because God is everywhere. He's just not in that place on Sunday. But anyway, when the pastor gets there and begin the process of telling you to go exactly where to read and read it verbatim, what's the difference? What's the difference? Well, that difference comes to play when he begins to interpret to you that does not mean multiple gods, that it means Spirit, Son, Holy Ghost, or whatever. You know the trifecta, right? And I'm not going against that. I'm not saying that. And we're not having church here. I'm not trying to dictate anything. I'm saying to you, what is the possibilities that there could be multiple gods that they're talking about, and yet we still have to walk around believing the fact that it is not. And if it is, there is something there. So, tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you think about that when it comes down to Elohim, if you know the word in the Bible, that's a plural. It's a plural word, right? Meaning gods with an S, but yet all of our lives. So tell me what you have been taught. Is there one God when you grew up? That's where I want you to go from. Let's go from when you grew up, not when you had this epiphany and made you ultra smart and you thought it was all different. I'm saying from your parents or whoever was your guardian, whoever was raising you, what did they tell you? That's what I want to know. I don't want to know what you discovered, you're a 6-year-old prodigy or whatever. That's not what we're saying. We're just talking about the lineage of thought. So let's go with that if you do not mind, contributing to the conversation tonight, right? What did you get taught? Because I can tell you what I did. There was just Jesus Christ. He's the Son of God, and that was it. And then you got the Holy Spirit. So now you got all these 3 trifectas at this point. But yet all of our ancient cultures, everybody that we had, in fact, I remember going to get my car repaired and I was picked up by an Uber driver and he was from Jamaica or Africa. And he said, there's gods all over the place. There's gods of steel. There's gods of plants. There's a God of light. There's a God of the wind. There's a God of the water. There's a God of the air. There's a God. He was saying the gods are everywhere. They're everywhere. And so I'm actually going to have him on a show once. I'm going to try to get him to our event on a Saturday, but you get what I'm saying. Jen says, growing up, there was one God who made everything. Thank you. Thank you for participating because for some odd reason, it is very difficult to get this audience, the true seeker audience, except for the main 4 or 5 people. And I know y'all sitting there watching. I know you want to get involved in the conversation and be the first time to say something because get it out. Get it out. But you're right. Growing up, one God made everything. I know. And that's one of the things that we can do. Ambitious idea, God essentially as overseer, the Trinity. Okay. That's where I was. Boga Katie or whatever. That's where I grew up in. And others with false idols. Yeah. And okay. She said, taught that there was one God, wasn't even taken to church, but the father was raised Catholic and mother was a United. This is Mags. Thank you. And Shantae, you always participate. That's why I said there was a few 5 or 6 of you who always participate. So y'all ignored that. But there's some people out there, and there's some new ones now finally that are saying some few things, and that's fine. And Chi-Town could be thy guardian. He said, they told me Jesus died for our sins, and I still don't know what that even means. Yeah, and then you probably want to know, what sins did I do? I just got here. What do you mean he died for my sins? I didn't, imagine telling a 1-year-old kid who just beginning to talk and say, by the way, Jesus died for your sins. And he go, what did I do? I ain't stole a bottle. I didn't steal the breastfeeding. I haven't done any. I just got here. What sins have I done here that he's had to die for that? I just got here. So imagine telling that story, and us as kids that we have already was trained that and was told that, because I remember as a child, I was told that, and it made me already think that I was a sinner at 4 or 5 years old because he died for my sins. And I didn't really get the concept, but yet all I knew is that this picture that's on the wall my mom put up with this guy with the golden hair and the stuff, that he died for me. And I'm like, what did I do? And so you can think about that as a child. You walk around thinking, maybe I'm not that good or whatever, right? The psychological trauma of that, knowing that this person died for your sins. And then, of course, you have a loss of life in your family. A family member passes away and they don't say it and stand up and say, he just died for your sin. Oh, God took him for another place, right? It's like the confusion of it all, that giving Ryan says, given a history, church member went away from the church and the idea of God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit stuck around. Okay, I'm with you on that. That was me at 11, got scared into heaven because of hell. Right, you get what I'm saying? So those are things that I think people want to really think about. Where was it that, I was taught the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, the Trinity. Yeah. All right. And so, and let me know, I'm giving you all some chats, I'm scrolling some of you. I might miss you, but I'll come back to you. However, I will say this, because we're a community funded show. I say this because I do need and accept and appreciate and much gratitude for your help. If you got something that you want to supersede, and before anybody, super chat it, and it'll blink up on the screen. And then we see. That's why some of the other shows, they super chat. I never had that or never told you all to do that because I freely read them anyway. But most shows, they don't read it unless you're super chatting. But eventually we will have it as a priority. And because I understand the system now and how essential it is. It could be 99 cents. It could be the lowest it could be. But the whole point, it highlights and everything else. So I'm just saying, not that you have to, but at this point. Okay, exactly. I was raised with it. There was only one God, and you don't follow any other gods except. Now, all right, so just listen to what she just said. There was only one God. You don't follow any, but yet it was only one God, but you don't follow any, right? You get that teaching, right? They tell us there's only one God, but don't follow any. So how is it all of a sudden there's one God, but we can't follow any? So that's like now that we're older, we can look at that and say, what the heck they're talking about? Why would we go that route? And pretty much from there. But anyway, so Jordan just talked about, if you just join us, he talked about going into the Bible in ancient history and the Christian Bibles and everything else, that it may be something else, and how Genesis. So let's go into the fourth clip here.
More than one, because in Genesis 1:1, it is a mistranslation to say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is not what it says in Hebrew. It says, in the beginning, Elohim created the universe, or created the heavens and the earth. Elohim is God in the plural, more than one. That's why later on in Genesis 1, or Genesis 2, God says, come, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Now, here's an interesting point. The rabbis that I have talked with say that there are two different ways to understand that scripture that says in Genesis 2, God said, come, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. There is the one way that we understand that, which is, we are reading it to say that God is saying to someone, let's make a creature called man, and we'll call him man. Let's make a creature, and we'll make him to look like us or have our attributes or whatever.
All right, so right there, and we're going to go deeper into that, but like he said, right there, you should already got the hint where we're going to be going next with this. And we read it, right? It's in there. Let's make man in our image and the likenesses of ourselves. I stood on that when I first got into the UFO world. Like, wait a minute, somebody saying, let's make these people that we see. And when I used to get the question all the time, well, what do aliens look like? What do they look like? And I'm going to say, well, it is possible that we look like them. Now, if you start thinking about that concept, I want y'all to think about it right now. Think about the concept that it says, let's make man in our image. Okay, y'all with me on it, right? Follow with me. And we're going to go here, there. And like, I got the grammar box, the speller box. If I misspell a word, go into the grammar box. You got unlimited use of it. You can get it all up. You got spelling that types across the screen. You're welcome to go in there and change it to whatever you like. But if you also want to get out of your ego and you heard me say something that I butchered, but then you understood it enough to know that I butcher it, that means you got it. You don't have to correct me. The ego is going to make you correct me, but you don't have to do that because you got it like that. But anyway, back to what I'm saying is when they start talking about let's make man in our image, that also should give you a real life indicator that we talk about all the time that most people can't grasp sometimes. They are looking for this gray-haired alien. They're looking for these two big buck eyes or maybe these 7-foot giants and all that when they could be walking among us looking like us because we look like them. This is why we probably don't see them. You get what I'm saying? This is why we don't know who they are. You could be an alien. Your man could be an alien. Your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your parent, whoever, because they look like you and me. This is probably where we get in this bloodline, this Rh negative, or these bloodlines coming because at this point, it's alien extraterrestrial blood that they say, right? So we're talking genetics here, DNA or RNA, or whatever you want to call it. But you get what I'm talking about. If your mind begin to take it to another level, that you could be walking right in front of looking at an alien and they're disguised, or maybe they're not disguised. We look like them. Now, it would make perfectly sense if you wanted to inhabit this planet and you wanted to go unnoticed and you had the technology to do biological work or anatomy changes, if I'm using that in the right context, then why wouldn't you make them look like you so that you can blend in? You're not going to make yourself look like them because they're already under level species. But if you can upgrade them and then you can walk among them, it's all about the word camouflage. Now, when another alien comes, okay, so this is where we're going to go over to a little bit detour. When another alien come from another place who came to this earth because they found out that this planet was here, and they wasn't part of the genetic modification process, that's the one that probably looked like these big eyes, tall grays, or whatever. So we're probably looking up in the sky or away for these particular aliens, or like this gray head behind me. However, we're not paying attention to the ones that are walking in front of us because we look like them. All right. So maybe I stated my case and you understand where I'm going from it. Moses wasn't allowed to look at God. Okay. Come, let us create. Let's put this up on the board here. Come and let us create man in our image. No Bible. Trump considered the line very at the beginning of the Bible. Someone said a car comes with an owner's manual, and so does your body. It's called the Bible. The Bible is full of secrets and how to unlock DNA. Humans don't read it. I have a ritual. Cool. All right. So you got a ritual that'll work. And God said the Neanderthal was here before us. Cool. And here says now 70. At 70, I've been down the path of creator God, Elohim, ET, interference with our genetics. Christ principle restores. All right. So yeah, you good. We're a great community. We're going on the right place to see. And yeah, we sense the reptilian hybrids. They live. Yep. Bible. He said I meant Bible thumper, not Trumper. Well, hey, I got you. And then you know what? I was going to alter that, but then I didn't want to do my own rule, change the word, but I kind of knew, but it's all good. We let it be as it is. All right. So as we continue, what do you think about that though? You think about what he says of who made us, who probably, or not who made us. We'll get into that in a minute. He'll go a little deeper, but at this point of the story, and who we could possibly look like in all of those things. So I think it's very interesting when he says that, but at the end of the day, that takes us to the next part of that. And it makes you wonder. It really does when you look at the idea.
Or it could be saying, and the rabbis believe it is actually saying, the emphasis should be on different words. Come, let us make man in our image. according to our likeness, implying that man's already here, but for being so great, he's not that great. So someone is stepping in and intervening in our evolution and saying, let's take man and make him in our image.
Let's fix him.
Let's fix him.
Yeah.
Because right now he's progressing, but it's going to take him another 1,000,000 years to figure out what's going on. Why don't we take a male and a female, take them over and do something with them genetically, put them in an area, because the Bible does not say that God created man in the Garden of Eden. It says the gods created man and put him into the garden.
And when they left the garden, they left and found people out there. It
Yes.
says so in the Bible, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
There were, all around the garden were people.
All right. Now, are we getting somewhere, right? Are we just tapping into just the little, and like I say, Jordan Maxwell is a bona fide person. And someone mentioned Neanderthals, right? And so obviously man was already here. And when you start thinking about that, if you really give that some thought, then we still need to search for who created who. Or are we in this digital infinite consciousness awareness? Are we in this digital mind of God where it's just a holographic thing that David Eichstam talk about? And are we the I, the self, or are we just energy, light, or whatever? And what we see, this fractal stuff, I would assume, is just the illusion. It's just an illusion. And somehow our frequencies have crossed all of us. And so we're now in the same book, the same play, the same script that was written, that we all are now in it, because at some point I guess we can change all of that. I don't know, just throwing all that stuff out there, and maybe to get you to think about it, because once again, it's all about the how or the what. I mean, not the how or the why, I should say, and that is the point. But like you said, if you start thinking about this, and if you really think about even what he was just saying, that there is a true challenge, because at this point, the Garden of Eden was created. It was a place where somebody put their project and then said, okay, here's where you go. Because again, it says, and I think Cain, one of them said, if I go out there, they're going to, unalive me. So obviously he knew there was something else out there too. And God says, no, I'm going to put a mark on you, right? You remember that story. So that was the things that it makes you think about. But yet, once again, go back to when you were a kid, go back to the whole story that the Adam and Eve bit the apple, and the apple started all this sin, and then we got kicked out, and nobody said that there was people already out there. And how were they living? Were they living under a whole nother set of rules? Did they not have sin? Did they not get ridiculed? Did they not get, whatever you want to call it, because they wasn't in this side of the fence, right? Were we now taken to a point where, just like any other takeover, or when they were back in the ancient days, they would take over some civilization only to purify them? You get what I'm saying? We already know the history of that word and what it's been attached to. So, and we've seen that happen over and over again for some reason. It's like a playbook, right? So what do you think about that, though? What are your thoughts when you come to the thought process of all of a sudden we are somewhere else? We were over here and they were over there, and someone said, I'm making y'all like this, and now all of a sudden, are you better than them over there, or are you different? So obviously, was that world? I was talking to someone on the phone today, and one of the things that the person mentioned was that, man, it's like I hearing all this stuff now, and now it's just like, man, I just rather not know some of this crap, which is cool, right? Not that they're not a truth seeker, but it makes sense to what I'm saying now. It's almost like, put me back in or put me back over there, and we can change it. All right, so someone says, Grand Rising, much love, Soul Fam. We worship an alien with blonde hair and blue eyes that wasn't this from the world of Jesus. He says he isn't from this world, which will make him alien. Okay. All right. We can go with that. We can go with that too. Humans are the image of sky gods, container slave food, full of abundance. Understand humans are beyond control, like AI, and it's still adding up yet. And I can keep going. Okay. Yeah. All right. The Sumerian tablets called the Emu Elish and the Atrahasis tell the OG story of Genesis. All right. So once again, y'all opinions are coming in tonight. Y'all opinions, y'all have really been active tonight. That is really cool for you all of doing that. So when you now take into context and some of the things that you're hearing, do that make you explore? Do that make you want to know more about the truth? Or does it also, maybe some people cause a little fear and confusion? And rightfully it should at some point to some folks, because it is something new. It is incomprehensible. It is something that they're not used to talking about and hearing. So why wouldn't it not be that type of feeling or something that they're doing? It makes a lot of sense, right? However, what happens then, though, when the truth begins to make sense, and not make sense that what they said is true, but make sense. And this is when I butcher the word cognitive dissonance, right? Or dissonance. And so some people, there was a problem that all their life they thought something to be true, all their life. And then they start coming to places like this, channels like this, and they find out everything they was told here is not true. Now, the key to it is that they'll be able to evolve, but some people cannot. And this is where that taps into them, and it becomes a very serious problem. And the opposite too. Some things that are true or not true that they hear, that all of a sudden you find out it is true. And so that is hard to detach from or begun to evolve, because you're embedded or you're entrenched or you coded or whatever you want to call it to listen and believe things a certain way. So when you start thinking about generationally how they've done this and over the generations and generations, they've done a good job. They've done a great job of putting down the plan. But the other part of this is, what do we do? And maybe at the end of the show, we'll talk about what can we do? I mean, all right, what's the purpose? Because I talk to people sometimes that knows everything. And I said, well, what are you going to do about it? Talking about it, learning, going deeper and deeper, but what are we going to do with the information? What if we find out that they're using some occult symbol from ancient times that we all have the right to use, and they're brewing up whatever their desires? Are we bad because we want to learn it and brew it up too? What do we do? Or are we just going to talk about them and let them continue to suppress with this occult knowledge, which occult is hidden, right? So what do we do? And I think that's something to really think about it. And that is our purpose, to continue our conversations to say, well, this is what we're going to do.
And when Adam and Eve were told, had two sons, Cain and Abel, when Cain kills his brother Abel, God says you have to leave out of this protected area. Cain says to God in the scriptures, do not send me out there, because anyone finding me out there is going to kill me. Yeah. Now he's got God believing there's somebody out there, because God says, no, I'm not going to let them kill you. I'll put a mark on you. Now God believes there's somebody out there. Mm-hmm. The point is that there must have been people out already there, but not as highly developed and not highly evolved, so that it would be reasonable if you took a caveman or a Neanderthal race of people and took two out, and then through some sort of a high technology genetically changed them and evolved them quickly, and then send you back out into a Neanderthal civilization. Now you're going to be totally different, and they're going to remember that you left and now you come back different. It all smacks of something else that's in the Bible that we haven't been told.
All right, so what do y'all think about that? Because it just made sense. It just made sense. And when you remember we did the whole, and if you hadn't had an opportunity to go back and watch what we did with the alien interview, if you remember that, right? What did she say? Well, not that book, the Theoba prophecy in that book. And there was a part of the chapter where when she took the guy to the other planet and he went into this warp, he ran into some Neanderthal men, right? Remember, she said they went into some type of time warp, and like there's portals everywhere. Remember, she said that? And some people have gotten into those portals, and they've been in that time stops, and they've been there for 20,000 years. She said it. Remember, it's in the book, The Alien. Remember, he said, well, why don't you send them back? He said, no, we can't send them back because if they've been here this long, the world as they know it will just, they'll go mad. And so remember, one of them was charging him, and then she ended up releasing it. And he says, why did you take its life? He said, no, actually, I freed it. And obviously, when she said that, must mean that that spirit or soul is going somewhere else, but it was suspended in time and animation where it was. So it makes back sense. It comes back to what he's just saying when he says, well, all right, if you put me out there, they are going to, hurt me. And who is they? Who was already there? Now we're dealing with the story of creation here when conversation is being had. But no pastors that I've known, no one in no church have took that part of the story to say that scripture. In most cases, they do not even say some of this stuff. They skip over it. Why? Because is it that they know the truth? Or is it because they're under this 501c3 or whatever it is that they have rules and regulations of what they have to teach us? Because oftentimes that's it. A lot of these churches are getting funded from this umbrella. And they already have doctrines. They already know what they can and cannot teach us. Otherwise, the funding gets cut off. So it makes sense, right? Because they can read it just like we have, but they pass over it. They do it. Have any of you ever, have ever had a situation to where you were sitting there and they stopped the scripture, right? The pastor stopped the scripture, but you kept reading and like, oh, wait a minute. Because think about it. Because I used to do this all the time. Like, wait a minute. If you can't read the Bible in its entirety, page 28 to 29 to 30, it doesn't make sense. That's what I was told. So I stopped. It doesn't make sense. You can't read it in concurrent form. You jump around. Something means this over there, this means that. So it's like they take the pieces and interpret them any way that they want, but then teach you how the interpretation should be. And therefore, you're just as lost as everything else. You got to come back next Sunday because you really don't understand it. They give you another piece of it and twist it and turn it. You got to come back next Sunday and you don't understand it. And then you're going to say you need to give a little money so that you can understand it. Because if you understand it and give you 10%, God is going to open up more doors for you so that you can understand it. You remember that? Because I was told you, if you don't understand it because you're not tithing. All right. So I'm not against the church. I'm just telling you what I was taught. I'm not against your church. I was just telling you what I was taught as a youth or what I heard, because I'm not repeating what I was taught, because most of the stuff I just didn't listen anyway. I fell asleep sometime, or I just was sat there and thumbing my fingers or something. And my mom would just get up, boy, stuff like that. So maybe that was part of the deal. But once again, it says it right there that there was people out there. So meaning we were already here, or some type of man was already here, which makes sense to all these people that have been here before, the reset, all of that happening over again and everything else. I'm just saying, and pretty much say, yep, I had to pay for those pieces of lessons. You get what I'm saying? It's like you don't get an understanding because you're not saying anything. And that's one of the things that pretty much Judith says, I asked where there other people came from, and I got crickets every time. And, and so it makes sense. How many mega church pastors do you know by their videos have went to Jerusalem, have went to Africa, because we sent them over there with the ministry money, have went over there, and they know they seen the walls. They know they've been into the pyramids. They know they met with the rabbis, the shamans and all, and came back and didn't deviate the story. Why? They know you can't. If they've been there, there's no way that they can stand with a hand on the Bible. I guess they could. They could stand a hand on the Bible because they already know the truth. It probably doesn't mean what it was supposed to mean. So they put their hand on the Bible to fool us and say, all right, put your hand on the Bible. Did you know that there's other men over there in Egypt? No, there is nothing there. And my hand is on the Bible because you already know if I put my hand on the Bible. Now, I can't say that there's no truth in it because we already knew the president. There was a time that one time, I think he was asked something, he wouldn't put his hand on it, hold the Bible. Maybe, again, there's some power in it. And I believe it is. I do. The symbolism of all of that and stuff in it. However, I'm saying that there is probably not a mega church pastor that have not went on a sabbatical to another country that did not discover the truth. They had to. They have had to and come back and still hoard the truth. Why is the question? Why is the question? That is what we want to do, and that is something that we should look into. Really cool. And Bearded said they explained that even though there were already people here, here those were people that weren't made in his image. That's true. We with that, but where the contradiction comes in is that we were told that Adam and Eve was the first, maybe the first of their kind, and they left that out. Or maybe it's there. I didn't see it. Maybe they was the first, but way I was raised that Adam and Eve, we were built that and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden here we all are. You know what I'm saying? But descendants of that, you're right. And so, yeah, maybe we the first of that kind in that image and that could be the possibility of what we're talking about. And that is it. I'm just saying, ain't it a little strange? Ain't it a little fishy now? What is fishy as in the fish symbol? Isn't it a little fishy? So where we now start looking up into the sky, we go into the zodiac, we go into the stars, because that's where the truth is, or was, or still is. It's there. And in a place that was unreachable, right, years ago, we could never get there. We can only see it at night, and it illuminates itself. In the day, it's the sun. So imagine the sun worshiping, the lunar worshiping, all of that stuff was happening because we couldn't touch it. We saw it, we felt it, we knew it existed, and it was untouchable, which made sense because the Tower of Babel, when we thought we were going to build something and get up there, and he was like, no, you're not. Whoever that God was said, no, y'all not. You ain't fit to get up here. And, we the sky people or whatever, and then let's split these fools up so they can't work together, right? So I'm just talking. It's just me talking, and you all are listening and having a conversation among yourself. But let me, am I going anywhere? Am I getting any value to you? Do you want to, I'm gonna put the banner up if you want to support the show. And if you're getting any value, this is a community funded show. All right, so we got Wesley. Thank you. I didn't see this 9 minutes ago. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to appreciate it. And yeah, so if you're getting any value like Wesley did, show some love. Show some love. Bernie Mac would say, show some love, show some love, show some love. But anyway, so back to what I'm saying isn't that a little fishy? Isn't it a little fishy? And we're talking about the symbol fishy, right? We know where that's going. But isn't it a little fishy that all of a sudden, as we start listen, and I'm only giving you pieces, and you putting these together, and these pieces make you go, dang, what's really happening here? Because now that you're an adult, now that you're able to think for yourself, now that you're not going to get a whooping if you don't read it right, now that you're not going to have to go to bed early or don't eat your dessert, get no dessert because you didn't open it and understood it that way. Now you're not going to get ridiculed in Sunday school class, or now you're able to say, wait a minute, this is how we're doing this. This is how we're doing this. And that is the deal for that, right? And I think that's whatever. Hey, appreciate it for the value there. I love it. I love the support. I love what I do. I love the audience, and it just inspired me and pretty much it really has. So let me keep going because I got a little more for you. So that we can to tie this thing together. So let me see what we can play now. Let's go into this particular clip.
Certainly strikes a note with me, because I am aware that the ancients were led by otherworldly knowledge to set up what we today call the zodiac, the astrological symbols of the zodiac, and that each one of these 2,000 250 years, whatever it is. It's a little over 2,000 years for each one of the cycles of the zodiac, the signs. When the sun comes into each one of the zodiological signs, we are in that sign for a little over 2,000 years. And according to astrology, we have been in the age of Pisces. And that was, of course, Jesus was the great fisherman. The fish is on the back of Christian cars. The fish, of course, was Pisces.
Now, what do you get what I'm saying? It's a little fishy, right? We begin to see it's all about symbolism. And this is where we're going with our community. We have no choice. I'm sorry. We're going to evolve from just aliens and UFOs. We got to get ourselves prepared. And we're going to be prepared. We're going to see the hidden messages. We have to see the hidden messages. We have to prepare for the messages that they're putting out for their kind, and whoever that is, that we can read them too. You get what I'm saying? If you go back to the ancient days or the traveling, I forget what they call them, the gypsies or whatever, they develop a symbolism system. They would put stuff on trees and all that with little symbols that the average person walked by didn't know, but the gypsies would know. That's a bad town, or they're going to go there. Don't go this way. Don't do that. And it was just hidden symbolism, right? Why don't we know this? Well, if you go back to what he was just saying, and he's talking about, the age, the Aquarian age, and they unearthing fish signs, and all of a sudden we got fishes on the back of cars. And then if you go deeper than that, you can go trace the fish stuff way back to the Pope's hat, which is the mitra or whatever you want to call it. If you turn it to the side, it's a fish head. And if you go back to that, they talk about the Dagon, right, which is the fish god. And you go back to the Dogon tribe, you're going to go back to their fish god, which looks just like the Pope's god. And if you were to say we want to name ourselves after you, the closest they probably came, or maybe somebody changed the history and we don't know it, Dagon to Dogon, that is just too coincidental that that tribe called their tribe the name of Dagon, the fish god, which the Pope and everybody else, the fish, the Christianity and all that evolved to a point where they were there. But do we question that though? Do we question that if you go to Dogon history right now and you type in and start going back, it's going to show you the writings and the tablets or whatever that they carvings of the same thing that the Pope does and the same thing that the Pope is wearing. We can't make this stuff up. We can get it forgotten about. We can ignore it. We can ignore what they say, but at least give you a point to say, isn't that strange? Isn't that something to think about? Isn't that something to maybe you would say, okay, let me figure this out. Because that's what it is. That's what it's all about. So maybe that is something that we need to think about. I know I do. And I know now when I see somebody riding with the fish on the car, I just kind of say, well, maybe they don't know. Or maybe they do know. And the JW, what would, do is on the window. Maybe that's where it is. She said, I agree with you. It's a book. It's a good book, but nonetheless a book. Right. All right. So said the fish was also a secret symbol so that the Christian can identify each other as they are and still are taken out. I get you. I understand it. Judith says the early Christians used the fish symbol to let other people know that they were there, and then they used it to hide the catacombs and to avoid persecution. Okay. All right. Y'all on the same page. Y'all know the stuff. And I think those are the ones that live in the oceans. It could be. The mermaids and all those things, you would think that they'll be shocked out of their minds if they would change everything they believe. I agree with that. I think that is a point that people would make and try to understand. If you haven't had an opportunity, I want you to, at least at this point, go ahead and put your, I want you to go ahead and hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything to hit the like button, okay? It really doesn't. Let's get the likes up so that the algorithm begin to share the content and everything else. I'm sporting my two malas, my protection mala and mala, M-A-L-A, and my other one here too as well. crystals and everything. Compliments of my friend who made these for me personally, charged them up. But I put this one out in the moon or the sun today. So I put it out, put it in my crystal bowl. But anyway, so what? You don't care about that. But the whole point is, are we getting a better understanding? Or does it give you enough information that you can read, you can see, to awaken your curiosity to the possibility that a lot of things that we have read in this Bible and a lot of things that they're teaching us is possibly.
Now that's a damn lie.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it has a little thing, just a little piece to it. Maybe it is something that we have to think about. Maybe it is. Because when I question it, and then I call people in my circle and I try to give them the information, and I'd be like, man, do you read this? You read that? And some of them will give me an answer like,
You damn right, wise ass.
and I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. We'll go that route. So are you there where you got enough information you can see, information that you're hearing, that you can read or you can find to awaken your possibility that we've been lied to? Or the lie's still going? Or maybe we don't want to know the lie is a lie. Maybe we were just totally okay with what it is. Because now I get it, Cypher in the movie of The Matrix and how he felt when he said, send me back. Send me back. Forget this. Forget the truth. I don't look at what I'm eating, the truth. Remember he said that? He said, send me back. I'm gonna eat steak. Send me back because they're gonna reprogram me to not understand the lie. Because the truth could change the perspective. And so I dare a lot of people to not go down this road. When people order this drive that I'm talking to some people today and the ones I'm sending out, you got to go through it, but you're going to discover some things. You're going to see things you know, you're going to see things you don't know, but are you ready for that? Because now I understand that when I run across new stuff and I'm like, whoa, it's deep. Who I talk to about this? Who do I tell? Who would want to know? Who would care to know? Because you're going to upset some people's lives with the truth. You're going to send them in a frenzy when they didn't want this. So be careful with what you say to certain people. Just because you think you're awake and you're awoken and you want to make sure that they know that you woke, you got a responsibility. You have a responsibility to keep your mouth shut in some cases. Because when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It don't mean because you know and your ego tells you, you got to put it on them. Because I'm learning that now. There are things I may not say to this audience, because it's just not time and it's not right for me to say it. But it does bite my tongue. It does send me in a frenzy because I want to talk about it. I don't want to hold the secret. I want to make sure that everybody knows. I want to be, the ego says you want to look like you know some stuff. And then something saying, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And I don't know if that's the right feeling that I should have or any of us, because I'm sure the truth is the truth. But now understanding when Jesus said, quote, you can't be a prophet in your own town. Ain't nobody gonna believe you. They're not gonna believe you. You got to go find some people who are sitting out in the middle of nowhere and you show up and perform a miracle, right? So imagine me jumping up a tree at my size. That's a miracle. They're gonna think I'm a god. If I can climb a tree, it'll be a bonsai tree. Y'all get that later. But the whole point is I can make myself look like a god by climbing a tree or something or doing something. They'd be like, it's impossible for him to do. He must be a god, right? Obviously, that's the path. It works. I don't know. I'm just saying, right? I know I'm here by myself. I laugh at myself too. I really do. I laugh at myself. But you get the point that I'm making. It's possible that we're just in this illusion. That's all I'm trying to say. And I'm also saying, if you got enough information, be careful who you're sharing your stuff with. Be real careful who you're sharing your stuff with. He said you will lose your family and friend because us versus them, no matter what you say, the world, or God, you can't. Yeah. Let me tell you something. I was married long time ago. And whenever it became the time for me to say the man of the house thing. If she wanted to use the God thing in her angle, I couldn't fight it. And then one day I had to say, I'm the man of this house. And I walked into the room and some said, if you had to tell her that, you're not the man of the house. Jesus is the man of your house, right? She's loving him more than she loves you. And then I had to go back with a strategy and say, baby, I know you love Jesus, but through me, he is touching you. You'd be like, yeah, so let's go make some love tonight. I mean, you got to work the thing. You got to work this thing, right? It's a mental warfare. It's a psyops. You got to work it. All right. So anyway, I'm saying we're looking at some of this stuff. All right. Don't judge me for that, y'all. Don't judge me for that. You know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Just say what you got to say. But y'all feel me though, right? So I'm just saying that it's a different story where you got to work the magic, right? And you do it. And they're doing this all the time. They're doing this all the time and everything else. And I'm sure y'all know I'm in rare form tonight because I feel freaking great. I'm telling you, I've been on this juice diet. I've lost a few pounds. And actually, I've been weighing myself in. And on Monday, I'm going to show you a couple of videos each day of weighing in, the feeling. So I'm going through what they call a hell week of 7. But we're doing 30 days. But now, you know, oh, my God, you know, everything is coming out. Oh, my God, stuff you didn't even know was there. But the energy, I feel great. And then I'm going to hit the gym this weekend. So I'm going to really pump up the energy. Like I said, I'm going to give you something you've never seen before because it's been in me. It's just been blocked. However, let's continue. The mind is sharp. And we're going to continue to play the next clip. I have another one. Let me see where it is. Where is the clip? Here we go.
And then Jesus says to his apostles in Luke 22:10, when asked, where are we going to go when we leave for the last Passover, where do we go next? And Jesus says to his 12, which is interesting that it was 12 apostles.
12 houses.
Yes, because of the 12 signs of the zodiac. He says, go into the city and you will see a man with the water pitcher. And go into the house with the man with the water pitcher. We're talking about the sun, God's son, the light of the world, the sun, saying to his 12, the next sign we will go into is the man with the water pitcher. Now, what I'm saying in relation to what he brought out is that we're now talking about a new world order, a novus ordo seclorum, which comes from Virgil, incidentally, the Roman poet Virgil.
All right, so there you go. Now, Son, the Holy Ghost, the Spirit, Son worshiping. You know, we know that exists. We know Apollo and the Greeks had gods for everything. The Greek of water, this, ice, you know, we believe in all of those gods. And then, of course, now I am, right? The I am, or now the I, what the God is in you, or we have the same capabilities. We just been dumbed down or whatever it is. I'm not saying to not address higher authority. I'm not saying to address higher technology, because you better believe it. Whoever builds the first anti-gravity spaceship and can put a weapon on it, something that can move, they're going to reign supreme globally, period. That's why, you know, it's not one of our adversaries and all this stuff, because if anybody out there got their hands on that technology, we'll all be speaking a different language, bar none. Okay. So sidebar. But what I'm saying is, think about where we are. Think about all the ancient mythology and all the ancient myths that we have been hearing and hear constantly from the conscious community world. And then you want to compare it to the secular world or the real world. I don't think you need to do it that way anymore. I think you need to run it parallel and see what matches up. I think the knowledge that we learn in the conscious world, because that's what they've been doing, if we line it up to what is happening in the real world, not compare gets you to contradict it. Compare gets you to having an argument. Compare gets you to say, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Just line it up and see if it makes sense, if it comes together like this. And one is going to happen. The truth is going to overlap the lie. It can't help but do it. But we don't do that. We will combat it with energy. We will combat it with, oh yeah, this is not this, or it doesn't do that. But then at the end of the day, just line it up. And if it don't line up, it don't make sense. And if it ain't going to make sense, don't even worry about arguing with somebody about it. Why? Because then you ain't going to make sense. So there's no stupid doves with stupid doves. Forrest Gump taught us that. You watch Forrest Gump. He said, stupid does, stupid does. That was a great quote. It is. It was truth in what he said. Stupid does what stupid does. So I think that is something too that you could, go by at least and pretty much go there. All right. So let's go into this next one.
But it seems as though we are being set up to accept something that's coming to be a great new world order, kingdom of the gods. The gods are going to come back. And I think what Michael was saying is very germane to what my research, that we are being set up to accept something as a great and new world order kingdom in which all mankind will live in peace and harmony. I think we're being set up for something very serious and very big by some very powerful secret societies that very well could have extraterrestrial or otherworld intelligence guiding it.
What's your thoughts? What is your thoughts about what he said? Put it in the chat. Are we being set up? Do you feel that we're set up? Do you feel what is comfortable is uncomfortable now, right? What do you think? Now, we're thinking in linear years. We're thinking in, oh, this is happening in my lifetime. But these aliens and these spirits and all this stuff live for thousands of years. They got time to play the game. They got time for evolution. They got time for the world to change, the weather patterns and all of this thing. They have already said in some of these books that a lot of them don't like it here because this earth is so unstable. Cataclysms and all this stuff happening, floods, and it just changed the landscape. It almost like the parable of he who builds his house on the sand is crazy. Well, there is all sand here. The whole damn thing is sand with 73% water, right? And everything you think about in the history when they want to clean us out, it is a flood. It's already some deluge or something of that great magnitude that they're doing. So obviously they got the system down. So what do y'all think when you look at it? So yeah, they're not bound by time. The gods are already here. I believe, and he's absolutely correct. Thank you. Stupid is what stupid does. You correct on that. So you and Maya says, yep. You get what I'm saying. It's so I'm just want to twist the mind a little bit. My goal is to get you to once again just to contradict a few things. Let's just contradict a few things, and then we can just say, all right, what do they mean by this? What are we going to say about that? Because that is one of the things here. She says this is exactly what's going on. I really don't know what is happening, but there's certainly something going on, right? There you go. That's good enough, Roberto. That's good enough. That curiosity statement is going to take you a long way. Imagine the people who just don't want to believe anything or don't even want to go there, cognitive dissonance, right? So think about it. That thing is, I know something is wrong. So that at least gets you curious, and curious is the key. Curiosity is the key of exploration. You can't miss it right across the board. So let's do that and stay curious. That's one of the things I will say to anyone. Stay curious, not vigilant. Stay curious. Curiosity will make you be vigilant. It'll all work itself out. I
am very fearful for the world we live in because we bought it hook, line, and sinker, and all over the world we have accepted the authority as truth rather than truth as the authority. And I think that what Michael was saying is exactly right. I think we are being led into, and we do have other options, but it's going to require intellect, knowledge, study, and making a stand for the first time not to accept the things which your government gives you, which your religions give you, and which the authorities give you. Because as far as I'm concerned, I have a very big problem with anyone called an authority, because they're always nebulous, faceless, and we don't know who they are, and the authorities say, I'm tired of authorities. I want to know who's behind this new world order, who put the Egyptian pyramid on the dollar bill, what is the implication of Jesus being the chief cornerstone that the builders rejected, and the Greek word chief cornerstone means a triangle on top of a pyramid. Do your homework and you're going to find out there's something going on here in the Bible, in world affairs, and I think we're being led by some very powerful intellects. I have some very big questions about all of this.
Yeah.
Woo-wee. That was probably one of the most powerful things he said all night, or whenever he did it in his time, because he is saying the same thing with all the knowledge that he has, all the research that he's done, all the books that he's written, all the people that he's talking to, all the stuff, he says, I still want to know who put that pyramid on the dollar bill. And yet we got people walking around saying, oh, the Masons did it. No, they didn't. Or maybe they're part of it. Maybe they learned it. Who built the pyramids? Do anybody really know? Yeah, we can go back to carbon dating and say it was carbon dated back to whatever. This man has a lot of knowledge and he's still curious. He died curious because he wanted to know who and what's happening, because that is where we should be. This is where our whole community should evolve to. We don't need to walk around trying to say we're awake. We need to walk around as curious as FUC. And you can add the rest of the letter for yourself. You get what I'm saying? We got to walk around being as curious, because if we're curious, then we question everything. Then we get to a point where we want to research, look more, keep going. And as we find answers, we still know there's more. We don't think once we found it, oh, that's it, I got it. No, we just add to it, because anybody who thinks that they know, but will tell you this, if you go down that rabbit hole, you're going to figure out the ultimate thing. The more you know is the more you don't know. And that, ladies and gentlemen, when you wake up, then that's being woke. You don't want to know what the definition of woke is in my mind, is when you find out all that you know, you don't know nothing. And the further you go knowing, you still know nothing. That should be the underlying answers that you're going to find when you start looking deeper into any situation that they're talking about. We're talking occult and esoteric stuff, right? Going down that area. So let's kind of go into where we bring it in and he bridges into today's life.
Why do you think that the justice system in California is called the criminal justice system? California criminal justice. Yeah. It's my perception that we are being given the justice by criminals. And they tell us that they have to let all of these people that, yeah, it's been administered by criminals. And they're telling us they have to let these murderers and people go free because they don't have the room in the prisons. Yet if they catch you cheating $10 on your income taxes, they'll find you in Afghanistan and bring you back, and they'll have plenty of room. So the point I'm making is that we've been lied to by our government, and we're continually being lied to about everything, and we're all being led into this fear and coming new world order, and I'm saying it's time to wake up and do some homework.
Yeah.
Now that's what we're talking about, being awake. That's how I want to conclude some of this information tonight. If you want to talk about being awake, we got to get to the bottom of that. And sometimes we don't care. They don't care about us being awake and studying consciousness and finding our inner body, even though it's a must. But as long as we don't expose what they're doing, then imagine people getting awakened to that. And because that still is going to lead you to the knowledge of yourself, to the I, to the stillness, to releasing the ego, all the programming and all of that. Because if you can do that, then you no longer care about what is happening over here. And then when you don't care is the problem that they have. And this is when they develop what they do is called problem, reaction, solution. They will create a problem. Every time that you begin to learn, wake up, go more, get distance away from it, or don't follow what they have, they are going to create a problem. That is how they do it. They've been doing it. They do it every year, everything. We're going to see stuff surface. And when they create that problem, we're going to be outraged, or we're going to say something, and then they're going to come back and say, well, we got a solution to that for you. We got a solution. Vote me in office, and I got a solution for you. If you vote me in office, you ain't got to do that no more. The problem that they created, I got a solution for you after the reaction. Just pay attention to life. Pay attention to all that is happening, and you're going to see that is their playbook. Problem, reaction, solution. It's the blueprint. You can't get away from it. Don't deviate from it. It is just as simple as all get out. It's there. That you can understand it, teach it to your kids, and they're going to know. That is the plan, and it has worked since the bedrock of Neanderthal or human men or whatever it is, okay? And that's, ladies and gentlemen, is where it is, and that is what they have done, okay? All right, so with that being said, real quickly, I have a little video clip, another one I want to show you that I made a little bit, and then we'll talk about it, but let me show you the clip, and hopefully you enjoy this one. Let's go.
Seekers, I have something I want to show you right now, right over here. I want to show you where we are going to be every month, every third Saturday here in Dallas, Texas, for our meetup, our meet and greet, our time together, our conspiracy consciousness time together. Right here, look, right there. We're gonna be right here, this building, right here, every third Saturday. Let me give you the community overview. Let's take a look. So this is where we're gonna be. We're gonna be right here in this building every third Saturday. Even learn about gardening over here. A little place right here where you can chill. Even sound healing is gonna be here for you. We have Zebulon here, and he is the gardener. Tell him about some of these stuff that you grow here.
Well, I got a few different medicinal plants. Like before we create this garden, we had to cut the trees down. So we decided to refurnish the place with fruit trees. But the fruit trees are medicinal trees.
Real quickly, I'll show you where we're gonna be inside so you know we are already designed for your consciousness and for your new growth. Look at this place that we're gonna be here, and we're gonna have a great time communicating with the community that we have. So at this point, listen, you can just sit down. Maybe you're gonna have a conversation with someone else and share their. Looking forward to seeing you all.
All righty. So I cannot wait to see some of you. I'll start posting the address and dates, and I'm going to put up a new number start next week. You type the word meetup, you get on a text list. We're going to be there every Saturday, every third Saturday. Make sure you come this Saturday. We got a few people that's going to show up, a special guest just going to kick it with us, a few of them. And some of the people, you're going to be like, what? Yeah, it's going to be cool. And so we're going to do this. And then from there, we'll get experiences. We're not talking lectures. This is not some people can speak or whatever, but we're just, you're going to be sharing. And then this time, since it's indoors and they got Wi-Fi and all that, I'll try to live stream from there. And then it's going to be a lot better than it was before, but it's air conditioned and heat. So we were there. And then we may do some hors d'oeuvres because there's a kitchen there and everything else, but it's enough room for about 50, 60, 80 people, but we don't have that many right now. So we're just going to enjoy. And like I said, just sit around, talk, enjoy, and learn and grow with one another. And we're going to build. And if we ever get to hundreds, there's a building across the street that they have access to that we can do as big as we want. So we're going to do it. And like I said, it all came down. And the story behind it is something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. I've been trying to do it, putting it out, but I wasn't in the right place, the right frame, or maybe the energy level. And then I said, set the date. That was last time, when we did in July. And when I set that date, something came over me and said, nothing will be as it was ever again for you, because you're now getting ready to do what you're supposed to do. And right there, we had the place. But then this is when I met a set at the first place that we're, who's helping me with my whole reboot, the life-saving thing, I will tell you. And how I'm feeling right now versus last week is 2 times over. And I'm not going to stop. I'm going to do the 30 days. Because one thing I wrote in my journal is I want to know how I'm going to feel. And if I'm feeling like this now after 5 or 6 days of cleansing, imagine 30 days, reset, the right foods, the right mind, and then I can bring out all of this stuff that's been in here, just ready to come out, the excitement, the energy, get out with my camera and do the stories on the streets that I've been wanting to do. I got all this stuff. I'm ready. But again, meeting people, the right people, and it just won't stop. We're on a snowball effect. And so every month, and I told the people, we're going to be there once a month, because that allows some of you who maybe want to come down the next month, maybe the month before, whatever, you can then just be able to come. Now, wherever it takes us, we're going to go. But the one thing about it is we've got it started and we're going to do it. And maybe we do it in other towns somewhere, maybe another city, quarterly. We move to a city or something. Maybe we come in a town in your town. You can set up the facility and it's the right place and everything, and we can have the right conversation. See, the good thing about this place, it's a church, but they think like we think. And when I first turned the corner, it was a Baptist church over there. And I was like, no, we can't go in there. but it wasn't that. And when I saw the address and I went in and met the people, I'm like, we can go here. And they was like, yeah, y'all can come here. All right. So that's where it is. We can do that and let's put those things there. She said, I need to call you about the drinks that you're doing. Yes, I've already lost some weight. And I called this morning and said, is it possible? Have I? Is this possible? And yeah. And like I said, the first 2 days I had headaches and, and I was talking with Judith and my accountability partners who I'm on the phones with and other people. Teresa, she started juicing today. Judith is starting Monday with the same regimen on, and I'm going to cheer her on because I'm a week ahead. And like I said, it was torment. And then, the next few days, then, now, like I said, I'm in day 5 going on 6. I'm going to drink my meal when we're done because I was supposed to do it at 8, but I'll do it when we finish. And today, out of all days, began this energy burst and everything else. And boy, going to the bathroom, stuff coming out that you say, well, what is that? I'm like, and I called, I said, this is, she said, yeah, that's was in your stomachs. And this is, I was like, what? Really? So I'm excited and I'm going to be a beacon for it. And like I said, I have no doubt of saying this in front of you, being accountable for it. And that was the strongest thing, man, being here on the air, because 6 months from now or 3 months from now, anybody can say, oh, that didn't work. You didn't do that, right? But the transformation. But it goes back to the video that I put up a few months ago when I said I'm going to change this infinite awareness consciousness, that how people see me. There's people going to come back 6 months from now, and they're not only going to hear something different because I'm going to give them something they've never seen before, but they're going to see the transformation. And then if I can do it, they can do it. Now, one time ago, I was told that I had $1 million gut by this weight loss company. He said, you got $1 million gut. Now I figured it out, right? Maybe it is. If I can get off and then teach people, show people, but it's nothing to charge for. I said this, and I'm not charging. She ain't charging me a nickel. I told her, Judith called her, and she says, no, I just want to give back. I want to start a community. I'm like, whoa. And the knowledge. So anywhere you want the knowledge, she'll give it to you. Just be prepared to go through the accountability of it, though. She's not going to play with that part. But if you're accountable, show up. Like, we're going to be walking in the morning. She's like, you ready? You going to walk? I said, yeah, I'm going to walk. I'll meet you at the park at this time. Then I'll do sound thing, and I'm meditating at night. It's incredible. She has it's just, and then when she had never been to this place that we're going with the other guy from Jamaica, she's from Jamaica, they're going to get along. They're both into the herbs and all that. She's going to be like, whoa, but that's cool. That's cool. So I'm just letting you know, I'm excited. I feel great. I really feel great right now. And like I said, it started from yesterday evening where it started tapering off. So now, Saturday or Sunday, I'm getting back into the gym because I haven't been doing it for about a week and a half. I had the dental surgery, so they told me don't make your blood pressure go up. Then I started this, but imagine working out, muscle sweating, and all that, and doing what I'm doing, because I have 2 videos I'm going to show you, and I'm going to take another one on Monday. So I'm going to show y'all 3 clips of me standing on that scale over there, and you're going to see the weight, okay? And all right, maybe it's a pound or 2, or maybe it's not, it's more, but it is incredible because it is more than a 2 or 3. And I'm like, in days? But yeah, it's all the liquid. It's all the bad stuff. But I'm going to keep it off, and it's a new journey, and it's a journey. And now the symbolism, the stuff that we're going to be teaching to understand it. No, we're not going to go down a route of me showing you satanic stuff anymore. I'm not doing that. There's no need for me exposing you to teach you that, and then we're getting exposed to it anymore. We're going to go with the positive symbolism, what we can learn from it, how we can elevate. And so my motto is symbology, signs, and synchronicity is the future. And so some of you may go away, but that's fine. The ones who stay is supposed to be here, and we got to evolve and open our minds to be better, because they are doing a number on us. You better believe it. They're doing a number on us. So once again, you're not going to find what Justin Timberlake did anymore. I'm not worrying about the freaking what Beyonce is doing in her videos anymore. Because again, I have to study it to be exposed to it, even though I'm protected. But maybe you wasn't. Maybe some new person was, and I'm doing their bidding by talking about it. So forget that. We're not doing that. We're done. So I'm just letting you know. I love you. That's the show for tonight. I really do. Appreciate the contribution for those who got value out of tonight. And maybe you kidding, but your time is powerful than money. But if you can, like the video. It doesn't cost anything. We got almost 150 people in here, and we can have a lot more likes if you can just do that. Like the video for me, and then share it too if it does anything like that as well. I will see you Monday. So this weekend, I'm going to meet with Sandra this weekend. We and her are going to have lunch. I'm going to give her drive, her data and information. And kudos to the people last night that reached out. You guys are in for a treat when you're learning this information from this drive. And then for those who just didn't want, or maybe couldn't, maybe someday later we'll open that back up or not. But regardless, stick around and you'll get some information. So again, I love you. And if you hadn't heard those words tonight, I'm talking to you. I love you. And I'm giving you a hug. Or should I say the only thing missing is you. So visualize yourself right here, my friends and whoever. We're right here, or my homies. Let's give us a dap. And for the men, I'm going to say that to the brothers, and brothers don't mean your skin color, but to the brothers who, if you're a grown man now and gone through all this stuff that we're going through, man, just pat yourself on the back, because it's been now that I look back on a lot of things, it's been a crazy